Hey everybody, it's Tim Van Orden. Today I want to talk about 3 different ways to accomplish something. And the first 2 ways I'm going to frame in the context of a bell curve. If you remember from high school statistics or mathematics, you've got 2 tails, which are the rare events at either side, and then you go up into this big bell shape. So most people or most of the data is in the bell, and then you have the 2 tails. And the way that most people frame getting things done if they're challenged is from either one of those 2 tails. And I bring this up because I have several people in my life that neatly fall into those 2 tails. And they really want to get things done, but they consistently fail to do so. So one tail of that curve are the people that need to like what they want to do. So I can't exercise unless I like the exercise. I can't write a book unless I like the environment that I'm in when I'm writing. Like, there has to be something that makes it a very pleasurable or positive experience before they can engage. So those criteria are seldom, if ever, met, so the activity doesn't take place. Then the other side of the curve, the other tail, are the people that don't need there to be a liking, don't need there to be a positive experience. They believe in force. They believe in domination, discipline, determination, willpower, sheer force of will. And that's become a very popular camp online. There's some big gurus right now who are pushing that angle, much to my chagrin. Anyway, these people believe that they need to force themselves to get what they need. And by the way, what they need is up here on top of that hill. So that curve, the summit of which represents the goal. And either party is going to struggle on a consistent basis to get engaged because one really hates what they're doing and the other doesn't like what they're doing. So it's interesting how one sees it as it needs to be positive and the other one sees it as it needs to be negative, but neither one of them likes the experience. And they'll struggle and they'll push, or they'll hire a coach like me to hopefully nudge them further and further up to the top of that mountain. But once they get there, once they achieve the goal and they're sitting on the summit, what they'll find out is that it's a very precarious position. It's windy up there. And there's a lot of other people that want to be on top of that mountain. And they're probably going to knock you off, or you're going to fall off, and you're going to tumble very quickly down back to your tail, or maybe to the other tail. Maybe you tried the positive thing and you did get there, and then you got knocked off and you went down the other side, and now you're just mad and you hate yourself and you're full of self-loathing and criticism because how could I have been so stupid or lazy or this, that, and the other? And then you try the negative approach. So this is not how I go about things, nor how I would encourage anyone else to go about things as a coach, because there is a third way for people that are struggling. Now, there are people who are just in the middle and they get things done, and it's not a problem. We're not talking to you. The third way is to take that curve and to flip it upside down. So rather than the standard bell, we flip it and it becomes a U, so it's inverted. And when you look at it from this perspective, it's not so much about climbing anymore to get from the tails down to the now bottom or trough. It's about allowing yourself simply to fall into the curve. It's about letting go. Because at that tail, it's not flat, it's a slight angle. So if you just let go of whatever it is that you're holding on to, you will at first slowly start to move, and then your pace will increase until you end up down at the bottom. And in Buddhism, they call this the middle path. You are in the middle of those 2 tails. And it's a very stable position because gravity is now on your side rather than working against you. And this may sound rather abstract. How does one do this? How does one invert that curve and let go and find that stable middle path? Mindfulness is one way to do it. Stepping outside of identity is another way to do it, which is my preferred approach, and mindfulness can be a part of that. Movement without a goal is another way to do it, and this is part of the stepping outside of identity process. So in the first approach, going uphill, you've got an identity that needs to get something done. And why does it need to get something done? Because there's some kind of threat to that identity. There's a threat to your health, there's a threat to your self-image, there's a threat to your rank. Something has got you in a state where you are not happy with the way things are, and it's got to change. And hopefully I can find something that I like, or maybe I can find enough just hatred within myself as rocket fuel. But something's got to change within your identity, within the narrative context that you find yourself in. So we tell a story about ourselves. We tell a story about our life. That's our narrative context. So if you look back at the word context, and when I say look back, look at the Latin roots of that word, it means to join together or to weave together, to weave a web or create a story. And there are two kinds of contexts. There are narrative contexts, which we construct, the life story that we tell. Hey, Tim, tell me about yourself. I'm going to give you my narrative context. Tell me your history. Narrative context. Cherry-picked. I'm always the central figure in that story. The other kind of context is the one that exists outside of your identity, outside of your story, and is so complex and diverse that there's never a central figure at all, ever. Everything is just constantly flowing. Some things are flowing in as other things are flowing out. People are being born as people die. Some people are having the worst day of their life, and some people are having the best day at the same time, maybe feet apart. So when we can let go of that narrative context, of the need to have our identity somehow change our state, we can then fall into the greater context outside of us. In a sense, what we're doing is we're widening our lens. Instead of being so focused on our identity and how everything we do is related to me, we can let go of that and say, oh, there's a whole world out here that has nothing to do with me. What's there? What can I discover? What's available? What can I play with? What can I interact with? And curiosity can emerge. So rather than forcing an identity into a linear context, trying to climb stairs up to the top of that mountain, you simply allow yourself to be less and less attached to your identity until you're just flying down towards that bottom in the midst of mindfulness, in the midst of physical movement. For instance, lots of studies showing that people running or walking or hiking in nature, not on a flat paved path, but on an unstable, variable surface. And there are lots of studies now that show when a human brain, human being, human body is in a natural context, not one of their own construction, but moving through an unpredictable, uncertain, novel, natural environment, our brain changes. And our identity is no longer the main focus unless we demand that it is. You can still cling to your identity. You can say, I'm doing this run because I need to get fit and I need to run a certain time. I need to break a course record on Strava, whatever. Or you can simply say, I'm here to explore the trail. I'm here to transform in the midst of this natural context that's not created by me. I'm going to allow myself to blend in. I'm going to allow myself to be permeated by what this experience has to offer. And this completely transforms you. So how do you get there? How do you let go? How do you get into this mindfulness practice? Once you're there, it's pretty easy to stay there, but letting go is the hard part. And the way that I do it, and again, the way the research supports this process, is to simply move first. But move without context. And I'm not talking about move towards the mountain to go for a run. I'm simply talking about getting up out of the chair. Where are you going? Doesn't matter. Move. Okay, now what? Doesn't matter. Just keep moving. Which direction? Doesn't matter. Just move. The more we can get ourselves into physical movement, the more that other parts of the brain will start to take over, and we will have more available to us mentally. Our identity suddenly starts to blur, and other things start to show up as blood goes into different brain regions, and that movement changes who we are and how we engage with the environment. So rather than trying to find inspiration or motivation or discipline to move, move. But don't move into a context. Don't move into a workout. Don't move into something that's still related to your identity. Just move. It doesn't matter what the movement is. You'll find yourself in that movement, and then you'll be taken for a ride. And for myself, it usually ends up with a workout, but never because I have to do a workout. I simply move, and my body knows that I love being in the woods, so it guides me in that direction. How many times have you been in a car driving, and you find yourself in your driveway, and you don't remember driving home? It happens to me all the time. It's like, holy cow, I was not even present on that drive. Our body can do that. Our body controls our eyes and our ears and our hands and our muscles. It doesn't need consciousness to get us to where we need to go. We have to let go and allow movement to transform us so that we can experience a different consciousness, a wider consciousness, a more inclusive and curious consciousness. So if you're stuck and you can't seem to get yourself to move, don't move yourself, move your body. Okay? I hope that helps. Let me know in the comments below what you think, and I'll see you soon.